You came back. Good. Pull up a chair and try not to make a sound. This is the last whisper. People in Briar County had one rule about Mercy Road: never stop there after midnight. That rule was not written on a sign. Nobody admitted they believed it, but every local knew the stretch of road beyond mile 19, where the highway lights ended, the trees crowded the shoulder, and the drainage canal ran beside the asphalt like a black open mouth. The last business before that road was a 24-hour market called Mile 19. 6 gas pumps, 1 cracked ice machine, a bathroom key tied to a wooden spoon, and above the front door, a little brass bell that sounded wrong. Most bells rang when a door opened. This one sometimes rang before the door moved, and when it rang twice, the security monitor above the counter blinked black. That was the warning. Nolan Price did not know that when he took the overnight shift. He was 19, broke, newly out of school, and desperate enough to work anywhere that paid cash on time. The day manager told him the job was easy. Keep the coffee fresh, mop when needed, do not argue with drunks, and never leave the register unlocked. She did not mention the bell. The first week was quiet enough to make the local stories seem stupid. Truckers bought coffee, construction workers came in before dawn. A few strange regulars drifted through with tired faces and exact change. Nolan spent most nights listening to podcasts and watching rain crawl down the windows. Mercy Road had a reputation, but Nolan believed in bad pavement, missing guardrails, and bored towns turning accidents into ghost stories. Then the patrolman came in. It was 2:13 in the morning. The bell rang once, then again, softer and deeper, like the second sound came from under the floor. The security monitor went black for 2 seconds. When the picture returned, a patrol car sat crooked by pump 4. An officer walked in with rain shining on his shoulders, even though the pavement outside was dry. He looked young, maybe 25, with a clean uniform and exhausted eyes. His nameplate read Vale. Nolan remembered the name immediately. 2 nights earlier, his uncle had mentioned a highway patrolman killed on Mercy Road during a late traffic stop. A suspect ran into the woods and was never found. The officer's last name had been Vale. Nolan stared too long. The officer picked a bottled tea from the cooler and brought it to the counter. "Long night?" Nolan asked. "Not yet," the officer said. Nolan rang up the drink. His fingers felt stiff. "Be careful out there," he said. Officer Vale frowned. "Why?" "Just heard there's been trouble on the road." The officer gave him a tired smile. "There's always trouble on roads." He left with the drink. Nolan watched the patrol car pull toward Mercy Road and vanish around the bend. Then he checked the security recording. The footage showed the patrol car. It showed the bell swinging. It showed Nolan talking at the register. It did not show Officer Vale. On camera, the cooler door opened by itself. A bottle shifted forward, then settled back into place. Nolan spoke to an empty aisle. The front door opened without a hand touching it. That was the first time Nolan understood the local stories had teeth. He should have quit. He knew that later. At the time, fear pinned him in place. He told himself he was tired. He told himself the cameras were old. He told himself anything that let him come back the next night. After Vale, Nolan started noticing patterns. The bell only rang twice for certain customers. An old man came in every Thursday at 2:40 and bought a newspaper nobody stocked anymore. A woman in a blue church dress bought cough drops and asked whether the rain had stopped, even on clear nights. A teenage boy with wet hair stood by the coffee machine and whispered numbers until sunrise touched the windows. None of them appeared on camera. All of them had died somewhere near Mercy Road. Nolan found their names through old articles, obituary pages, accident reports, and local message boards. He never told anyone what he was doing. A 19-year-old clerk claiming dead people were shopping after midnight was not a witness. He was a punchline. Then the girl arrived. It was 3:17 on a Sunday morning, during one of those still hours when the world feels abandoned. The bell rang twice. The monitor blinked black. An older white pickup rolled up to pump 2. The driver stepped out first. He was broad, bearded, wearing a brown canvas jacket despite the warm night. He kept his head low while he pumped gas, but his eyes moved constantly, checking the road, the store, the dark tree line. Then the passenger door opened. A girl climbed down. She looked 17, maybe 18. Dark hair, gray hoodie, white sneakers too clean for that parking lot. She walked into the store hugging herself, not like she was cold, but like she was trying to hold herself together. Some ghosts felt empty to Nolan, like recordings replaying through bad speakers. This girl felt awake. She grabbed barbecue chips, then a cherry soda. At the counter, she kept glancing outside. Nolan scanned the chips. Heading somewhere? She gave a small smile that did not reach her eyes. Yeah. Anywhere good? Somewhere different. Nolan nodded toward the pickup. That your dad? Her face tightened. No. The driver outside turned and stared through the window. The girl flinched. It was quick, almost invisible, but Nolan saw it. He also saw himself choose silence. He could have asked whether she needed help. He could have offered the store phone. He could have stepped outside and gotten the plate number. Instead, he acted casual, because casual felt safer than involved. Long drive with someone who looks that angry, he said. The girl lowered her voice. He's not angry at me. That answer chilled him more than fear would have. She paid in cash. Before leaving, she looked at him like she wanted to ask for something without knowing the words. Do people ever come back through here? She asked. Nolan frowned. What do you mean? Like, if they make a mistake. The truck horn tapped once. She stepped away from the counter. Forget it. She walked out, climbed into the pickup, and the truck pulled toward Mercy Road. As it passed under the security light, Nolan noticed silver tape stretched across the passenger window, fluttering in the wind. The recording showed none of it. On camera, Nolan sold chips and soda to nobody. Pump 2 stayed empty. The bell moved by itself. For 3 days, Nolan did nothing useful. Then guilt became louder than fear. He searched missing person reports across several states using the few details he had. Dark-haired teenage girl, gray hoodie, older white pickup, possible online relationship. He searched during breaks. He searched after work. He searched when he should have been sleeping. At first, nothing matched. Then he found her. Her name was Maisie Quinn, 17 years old, missing from Ohio. Last seen leaving her grandmother's house shortly after midnight and getting into an older white pickup parked down the street. Police believe she had been communicating online with an adult man using a fake name. The case was 8 months old. Nobody had found her. Nolan stared at her photo until his phone went dark. Same dark hair, same gray hoodie, same guarded eyes. That was when mile 19 stopped feeling haunted and started feeling hungry. The store no longer seemed like a place where ghosts wandered in by accident. It felt like a trap for final moments, last purchases, last conversations, last chances for someone living to notice what death had already memorized. Nolan started taking every overnight shift he could get. He kept a notebook under the counter and wrote down every double ring, every blackout, every detail from dead customers who appeared and vanished. Officer Vale came back once. The old man with the impossible newspaper came twice. Maisie did not return. By the end of August, Nolan looked sick. The manager told him he needed sunlight. His uncle told him ghosts did not pay overtime. Nolan ignored both of them. On the last night of the month, a storm slammed into Briar County. Rain hammered the pumps. Wind pushed water across the parking lot in shining sheets. The drainage canal beside Mercy Road filled fast. At 3:17, the bell rang once, then twice. The monitor went black. Nolan stood so fast his chair hit the floor. The white pickup was at pump 2. The man in the canvas jacket stood beside it, moving like he was pumping gas, though no hose was in his hand. Rain passed through his shoulders in thin silver lines. Then Maisie opened the passenger door. She walked into the store soaked from head to toe. Not from the storm, from colder water. Mud clung to her hoodie. One sneaker was missing. Pine needles tangled in her hair. A dark bruise circled her throat. Then she crossed the threshold and the damage vanished. Her hoodie became clean. Her hair dried. Her face softened back into the frightened girl from Sunday morning. Nolan understood something then. The dead did not replay perfectly. They slipped between the last version of themselves that felt alive and the version the world had left behind. Maisie picked up the same chips, the same soda. She walked to the counter. This time Nolan spoke her name. Maisie. She froze. The lights dimmed. Outside, the man slowly turned his head. Maisie stared at Nolan. "How do you know my name?" Nolan put both hands flat on the counter to steady them. "You came through here before." "No, I didn't." "You did. You asked if people ever come back when they make a mistake." That made it worse. Her expression cracked. For 1 second, the clean version of Maisie disappeared, and the drowned, muddy version looked out through her eyes. "Did I get home?" she whispered. Nolan could not answer. Her face folded with terror. "Please tell me I got home." The truck horn sounded once outside, the same short warning. Nolan reached for his phone and started recording. "Maisie, listen to me. Do you remember where he took you?" She looked toward the door like her body had been ordered to leave. "I have to go." "No, tell me what you remember." The horn sounded again, longer. The bell over the door trembled without moving air. Maisie's voice dropped to a rush. "There was a bridge, not a real bridge, concrete sides, water underneath. He pulled off after the third yellow sign, a white mailbox with no house, trees split open behind it. There was a hunting blind with red paint." Nolan repeated the words into the phone. Third yellow sign, white mailbox, red hunting blind. The front door handle turned. Nolan looked up. The man from the pickup stood outside the glass. His face was clearer now, middle-aged, flat eyes, wet beard, one hand hanging loose at his side. He was not like Officer Vale or the old man with the newspaper. Those ghosts were trapped in habit and grief. This man knew where he was. He knew what he had done, and he wanted Maisie quiet. The door opened, though Nolan had locked it earlier. The man stepped inside. The store filled with the smell of rainwater, old cigarettes, and something sour underneath, like clothes left in a trunk too long. He looked at Maisie. "Truck's leaving," he said. His voice was ordinary. That made it worse. Nolan stepped between them. "She's not going with you." The man's eyes slid to him. "She already did." The lights went out. In the dark, the bell rang violently, metal against metal, too fast for any human hand. Nolan heard Maisie crying. He heard wet boots on tile. He heard the cooler doors open one by one. Then red emergency lights snapped on. The aisles were full. Officer Vale stood by the coffee station. The old man with the newspaper stood near the door. The woman in the blue dress stood beside the medicine shelf. More shapes gathered behind them, people Nolan had seen only in camera static and reflected glass. The dead of Mercy Road had come inside. The man looked around, and anger finally left his face. Maisie stepped out from behind Nolan. The mud returned, the missing shoe, the bruises, the water dripping from her sleeves, but her eyes were clear now. "Third yellow sign," she said. The man lunged. The camera burst into static. Something slammed Nolan backward into the counter. Glass shattered near the door. The red lights flashed once, twice, then died. Silence followed. When Nolan opened his eyes, the store lights were back on. Maisie was gone. The man was gone. The dead were gone. On the tile in front of the counter sat one wet white sneaker. Nolan called 911 with shaking hands. He did not mention ghosts. He said a distressed girl came into the store and gave information about a missing person case. He said a man tried to force her outside. He said he had a recording and physical evidence. The police arrived before sunrise. At first, they looked at him like people always looked at overnight clerks with wild eyes and no sleep. Then Nolan played the recording. Most of the video was darkness and static. The audio was clear. Maisie's voice gave the directions. Third yellow sign, white mailbox, red hunting blind. Then another voice came through under the static. "Truck's leaving." Search teams found her just after noon. Past the third yellow deer crossing sign on Mercy Road, a concrete culvert carried stormwater under the highway. Nearby stood a white mailbox at the entrance to an abandoned farm lane. 50 yards into the trees, half collapsed and streaked with old red paint, was a hunting blind. Maisie Quinn had been buried beneath it. Investigators found fibers, tire impressions, and a strip of silver tape caught on a branch. Within a week, police arrested a long-haul mechanic named Grant Solar. He had recently repainted an older white pickup dark green. He had already been questioned in another disappearance, but nobody had ever found enough evidence to hold him. This time, the road gave them what they needed. Nolan quit the next morning. He left the key in an envelope, walked out after sunrise, and never entered mile 19 again. Years passed. The county widened Mercy Road. New lights went up along the worst curve dot. The market closed, the pumps were removed, and the building was torn down after a winter storm split the roof. People said the haunting ended. People say that because they like endings. Last year, a rideshare driver called 911 from the old Mile 19 lot during a sleet storm. He claimed his navigation app sent him down a road that should not have been open. He saw a glowing convenience store ahead, bright as daylight, with 6 pumps and a bell over the door. Outside stood a teenage girl in a gray hoodie and one white sneaker. She pointed at his trunk. The driver stopped, opened it, and found a woman inside, bound and barely conscious, abducted from a rest stop 2 counties away. When police arrived, there was no glowing store, only an empty foundation, weeds pushing through cracked concrete, and a rusted brass bell lying near the place where the door used to be. Nolan heard about that call through an old coworker, and he refused to drive anywhere near Mercy Road after that. He knew the building had been torn down. He knew the pumps were gone. He knew there was no power line, no register, no glass door, and no brass bell hanging above it anymore. But he also knew Mile 19 had never really been a store. It had been a place where the last seconds of the dead kept repeating until someone alive finally paid attention. Roads remember tire tracks after rain washes them clean. Doors open for the dead because the living failed to open them in time. Maisie came back because one clerk finally listened. Officer Vale came back because duty kept walking even after his body could not. The others came back because the road had taken something from them, and some part of the world still owed them a witness. Now, whenever someone reports a flickering light near that empty lot, the county blames old wiring from the road crews, passing headlights, or teenagers sneaking around after dark. Nolan never believes those explanations, because somewhere on Mercy Road, a bell still rings when no door is standing. And when a stranger on the shoulder points toward the dark and begs without speaking, the person driving past has to decide whether they are being warned away from danger or being shown where the next victim is hidden.